At exactly 2:17 a.m., a pregnant woman living in the small, snow-covered town of Raven Creek, deep in the Alaskan wilderness, called the police with a trembling voice. "There's someone walking on my roof," the dispatcher told her to stay calm. But then, a strange sound came through the phone. It sounded like a long, wet tongue slowly dragging across a window. And then, the woman let out a scream so horrifying that several officers who later listened to the recording said they had never heard anything like it in their entire careers. When the police arrived, the front door was locked from the inside, but the bedroom window had been shattered. Blood was splattered all over the walls. The woman was gone, and on the roof, there were two massive blood-stained wing marks. Just 3 days after that incident, Europe's famous travel journalist Adrian Parker arrived in the same town. He traveled the world making documentaries about mysterious places. There was only one warning people kept posting online about Raven Creek: never look up at the sky after dark. Adrian had never believed in rumors like that. He figured it was probably just another spooky story made up by a small town. During the day, Raven Creek looked peaceful and beautiful. Snow-covered pine forests stretched in every direction. Small wooden houses lined the quiet streets. Every rooftop was buried beneath a thick layer of white snow. But there was one thing that felt off. The moment the sun went down, the entire town seemed to shut itself away. It was as if no one lived there at all. By 7 o'clock in the evening, heavy curtains covered every window. Not a single person could be seen outside. Even the stray dogs disappeared without a trace. The elderly hotel owner, Margaret, handed Adrian his room key and gave him only one warning. If you hear someone walking on the roof after midnight, don't look up, and whatever you do, never open the window. Adrian smiled. He assumed the old woman was just trying to scare him. That night, around 1:30 a.m., he actually heard footsteps on the roof. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was incredibly quiet, yet every step felt wrong. It didn't sound like a person walking. It sounded like something heavy, slowly crawling overhead. Adrian grabbed his camera and walked toward the window. Outside, there was nothing but darkness. Then, under the glow of a street lamp across the road, he saw something flying. A woman. She had enormous black wings. The lower half of her body was completely missing. From the waist down, there was only a severed torso, dripping blood as it floated through the air. Her long, tangled hair drifted in the wind, and her eyes were locked directly onto Adrian's window. His entire body went numb. He raised his camera to take a picture. The instant the flash went off, the creature shot toward his window with terrifying speed. Bang! The glass shook violently, but it didn't break. For a few seconds, the woman hung upside down outside the window, staring at him. Then, she gave him a horrifying smile and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, Adrian told Margaret everything he had seen. The color immediately drained from her face. She closed the hotel without another word. Then she quietly said, "You've seen her now, and she isn't going to leave you alone." She told Adrian that many years ago, a group of people from the Philippines had settled in Raven Creek. One of the women among them had been cursed. People believed she never truly died. Now, every night, she separated the upper half of her body from the lower half, flew through the sky, and hunted human beings, especially pregnant women. But if she couldn't find one, she would drink the blood of any healthy person she came across. For the first time, Adrian was genuinely terrified. But instead of leaving, he decided he was going to uncover the truth behind the mystery. As he investigated, he discovered that 9 people had disappeared from the town over the past 2 months. Not a single body had ever been found. That night, Adrian headed into the forest carrying only his camera and a flashlight. After walking for a while, he noticed drag marks cutting through the snow. He followed them until they led him to an old wooden barn. Inside, the smell of decay was overwhelming. The floor was stained with dried blood, and in one corner, he noticed what looked like someone's legs. As he stepped closer, his heart nearly stopped. It wasn't a human body, it was the lower half of a torso, severed cleanly at the waist. It was still twitching ever so slightly. Fresh blood continued to seep from the exposed wound. Adrian immediately realized this was the missing lower half of the flying woman. Then, he heard the sound of wings beating above him. He slowly pointed his flashlight toward the ceiling. There she was, hanging upside down from the rafters, staring directly at him. Her lips were completely black, her mouth was filled with blood, and her long tongue slowly stretched downward until it was almost touching Adrian's face. He turned and ran for his life. He sprinted through the snowy forest as fast as he could, but behind him, every few seconds, he heard the powerful beating of wings. Then, suddenly, his foot slipped, and he crashed into the snow. He looked back. The woman was hovering directly above him. Blood dripped from her razor-sharp teeth. She was just about to dive at him when church bells suddenly rang in the distance. The woman screamed in agony and shot into the sky like lightning. Somehow, Adrian made it back to the hotel alive, but by then, it was already too late. Written across the wall of his room, in blood, was a single sentence. "Tomorrow night, it's your turn." That night, Adrian scattered salt and garlic all around his room. He locked every window, turned on every light, and left his camera recording. At exactly 3 a.m., every light in the room went out at once. Then, the sound returned. Tap, tap, tap. This time, the footsteps slowly stopped, directly above his head. For a few long seconds, there was absolute silence. Then, the wooden ceiling began to bulge inward, as if something above was ripping through it with razor-sharp claws. Suddenly, the wood split apart. 2 enormous black wings spread into the room, and through the opening, a long, blood-covered tongue slowly dangled down. With shaking hands, Adrian threw a handful of salt at it. A horrifying scream exploded throughout the room. The creature pulled back, but before it disappeared, it laughed. So loudly, the entire hotel shook from the sound. The next morning, when the hotel staff entered Adrian's room, it was completely empty. His camera was still recording. In the last 5 seconds of the footage, Adrian is standing in front of the camera. Behind him, outside the window, the same winged woman with only the upper half of her body is slowly smiling. Then, the video suddenly cuts to black. To this day, Adrian Parker has never been found. But the people of Raven Creek still say, if you ever hear the sound of wings flapping overhead on a cold winter night, don't look up, because there's a chance she isn't looking at you. She's standing right behind you.